Dr. Parmjit Parmar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the Social Security Amendment Bill number 3, bill in its third reading. The bill clarifies that students who choose not to apply for assistance under the student allowance regulations are excluded from receiving an accommodation supplement. It also clarifies that the income test includes the income of a person's spouse or partner as well as parental income. Assistance for students is designed so that there is shared approach from both the government and the student contributing resources. This is because the benefits from tertiary education accrue to both the student and the country. The bill is not about the level of assistance provided. The reason for this bill is not to save cost, but to ensure that the legislation is clear in relation to the policy intent. Mr. Speaker, currently assistance with accommodation cost for students is available through the accommodation benefit provided under the Student Allowances Regulations 1998. And a student is not eligible for accommodation supplement if they are receiving a basic grant or an independent circumstances grant. But the wording of the legislation does not make it clear that a student is not able to receive accommodation supplement if they are eligible for a basic grant or independent circumstances grant, but do not apply for such assistance. A student is also not able to receive accommodation supplement if their income or the income of their spouse or partner, if any, or the income of their parents is too high for them to be paid a basic grant or independent circumstances grant, but they are otherwise eligible. The wording of the legislation is not clear that income includes the income of a spouse or partner. So this bill closes loopholes that allow for some students and beneficiaries to receive varying levels of income support. The accommodation supplement is intended to assist low to middle income people with accommodation cost, those who don't receive any student allowance or loan. National government encourages equality and fairness. This loophole in the Act is leading to inequality in benefit received by two people in exactly the same kind of circumstances. The proposed commencement date will have no immediate impact on those students currently receiving accommodation supplement. Work and income plans to use the annual review cycle to review and adjust ongoing entitlements. Students should receive the assistance designed for them. Students who are eligible for student allowances should not be able to take advantage of the system and request an accommodation supplement. So the current wording in the Social Security Act is not clear enough, and it leaves a loophole that allows people to claim the accommodation supplement if they give up the student allowance and accommodation benefit to simply do not apply for a student allowance. This bill closes that loophole. It provides clear wording to exclude students who have access to the student allowance scheme from being granted the accommodation supplement. And Mr. Speaker, this bill also intends to ensure that direct deduction of weekly compensation payments from income-tested benefits applies whether these payments are made by or on behalf of ACC or by a accredited employer. The changes set out in the bill will provide for current practice in relation to treatment of weekly compensation payments to continue. It will amend the definition of weekly compensation to make it clear that it includes compensation paid by or on behalf of ACC or an accredited employer. It will make clear that weekly compensation paid by or on behalf of the ACC should be deducted dollar for dollar from income-tested benefits, and will also validate best practice in this respect. The weekly compensation received should result in a corresponding reduction of benefit to ensure that the person is not advantaged over other people receiving benefits in the similar circumstances. The largest difference is reached at the point when the weekly compensation rate is the same as the benefit rate. Direct deduction of the weekly compensation results in no benefit payment at this point, while treating the weekly compensation as income results in an unemployment benefit payment of $116.70 per week, or a DPP sole parent benefit payment of $196.87 per week. The bill also addressed the fiscal risk of $0.7 million per annum in benefit payments, as more than $3 million in one-off backdated benefit payments. These payments would be made to beneficiaries who have received their weekly compensation payments from their accredited employers rather than ACC. In addition, work and income resources would need to be diverted to identify the beneficiaries affected and the amounts and time periods covered by credited employer, and to make the adjustments to their benefit payments. This bill has been examined by the Select Committee and the House as the committee. The Select Committee received 2 submissions to this bill at the committee stage. I was not part of the committee then when these submissions were received. These submissions were from the Dunedin Community Law Centre and second from the New Zealand Union of Students Association. These submissions discussed wider issues of adequacy of accommodation assistance provided to students through the student support system. There was a view expressed that student accommodation rates are inequitable and do not meet the needs of students. There was a suggestion that we should consider why students seek to access the accommodation supplement, just as the members on the other side are saying. But, Mr. Speaker, this bill would not be an appropriate vehicle to make changes the type suggested to the assistance levels provided to students. About the other view from members from the other side, that students are having a tough time, that simply does not stack up with the evidence. And also the bill is not about changing the assistance levels provided to students. If we look at the evidence says that national-led government is focused on improving tertiary education, lifting achievement, increasing skills, and focusing on better outcomes for students and taxpayers. Since 2008, there has been a rise in the number of full-time student numbers, and we are seeing more graduates than ever before and at higher levels. Data from the Ministry of Education shows New Zealand students completed a record number of undergraduate degree qualifications in 2013. It shows, yes, more Maori, more Pacifica. It shows our reforms across the tertiary sector are steadily delivering much better results for students. Having more people achieving tertiary qualifications means a more highly skilled labor market. Higher skills mean higher paying jobs for all New Zealand families. This is because of New Zealand government focusing on things that matter to New Zealand families. And Mr. Speaker, I'm actually astonished at the stance from members from the other side that they don't mind a loophole in the legislation and they don't mind the loophole being used by some to gain financial advantage. The national-led government is focusing on improving tertiary education and increasing skills. National government is committed to efficient and effective legislation that treats people fairly, and this bill closes fiscal loopholes, supporting the national-led government's undertaking to responsibly manage finances on behalf of taxpayers. So in summary, Mr. Speaker, this Social Security Amendment Bill number 3 amends the Social Security Act 1964 to ensure that people in similar circumstances are treated equally in relation to treatment of weekly compensation payments and assistance of students' accommodation costs. I support the bill and commend the bill to the House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Just before we go on, I didn't interrupt the member as she read her speech because I did work on the assumption that she might have been using some notes that were prepared for an earlier speaker. But I do want to make it clear to speakers who are following now, the leniency that was shown to that member won't be shown to further members. The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker.